Hi, welcome to this week's episode of TMA Trucks A to Z. Today we're going to be talking about the letter R, and we're going to be talking about roll ahead distance, RAD. It's important to know about roll ahead distance because if your TMA truck gets hit, it depends on a lot of different things as to how far that truck's going to move ahead in the work zone. So we're going to give you a couple of visuals today. Later on, we're going to talk to ATS's chief instructor, Juan Morales, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about roll ahead distance as well. So it's called the layout of the shadow vehicle. The shadow truck should be positioned in enough distance behind the workers or the equipment in the work zone so that an errant vehicle can't go up in between, but that TMA truck actually does absorb the crash in case there is a hit, so that obviously they're not injured as well. So that distance between the shadow vehicle, the TMA truck, and the equipment or the workers, that little area is called roll ahead distance. So roll ahead distance depends on a couple things. Number one, the weight of your TMA. In a previous episode, we went over ballasting and how much a truck should weigh, so we'll go over that. It also depends on the speed of impact. So are you in a under 55 mile an hour work zone? Are you in a work zone that says 70 miles an hour posted on the speed limit sign, but you're trying to get people to go 45 miles an hour? It also depends on the size of the vehicle that hits that attenuator truck. Does that vehicle, is it a normal Kia or a Toyota Corolla? Or is it a pickup truck, or is it potentially a semi-truck? So we'll go over those situations. In this scenario, we're gonna use a Honda Civic. And let's say that that Honda Civic just slammed into the back of that TMA truck, okay? This TMA truck, for our example, just for example purposes, is gonna weigh 10,000 pounds. Is that recommended? No. But it is in Humphrey and Sullivan's guide. They tested a 10,000 pound truck, so we're gonna see. It says that if it's a moving operation, that your worker should be placed at least 222 feet. So if you take a look at Andrew there, in this scenario, Andrew is going to be our worker, okay? Our associate Taylor is driving our TMA truck today, and he's going to show you the example. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, crash! So if you take a look at Andrew, he is still safe up there. He was standing about 222 feet away, and that TMA truck rolled about 100 feet, being hit by that normal Honda Civic car, okay? So they remain safe. Again, that TMA truck weighed 10,000 pounds. In the second scenario, we're not gonna do an example of if it gets hit by a pickup truck. I'm just gonna tell you it's gonna roll about 50 more feet forward. But what I do want you to see is that if a 10,000 pound truck is hit by a semi-truck, how far it's gonna roll ahead. So let's take a look. Ahead 175 feet. Now this is based on some studies. That is a very light TMA truck that you have in the work zone at 10,000 pounds. And as you can see, Andrew's just a little bit in front of that truck, so that's a little bit scary, but he's still safe, so make sure you know what that roll ahead distance is. In this next example, we're gonna show you a TMA truck that weighs 15,000 pounds. So you can see the difference in roll ahead distance, okay? We're still gonna use a moving operation, and let's say again that that Honda Civic hit the back of that attenuator truck. Let's take a look. So see where Andrew is? Way up there, very safe. Again, Andrew's standing at 222 feet ahead of that shadow vehicle, which is what is recommended. So as you can see, just a little bit more weight, 5,000 pounds on that TMA truck, and look at the amount of distance that is still safe, and you're still gonna be able to deflect that errant vehicle that goes into the work zone, and Andrew can still work knowing that he's gonna be protected. Let's use the example now if a semi-truck was gonna hit that attenuator truck in your moving operation and your truck weighed 15,000 pounds. So he just rolled ahead 150 feet by being hit by that semi-truck weighing 15,000 pounds. Andrew, obviously, still safe, able to wave to us, gave us the thumbs up. Now, what I want to reiterate here, imagine if your truck weighed 20,000 pounds, which is what we recommend here at Royal Trucking Equipment. You're still able to park your shadow vehicle the right distance away in order to get those errant vehicles that go into your work zone, but your roll ahead distance is going to be so much less. So it really doesn't matter what Andrew's doing. He's up there at 222 feet in a moving operation, and he knows he's safe, and that TMA truck's not even getting close to him. This was an example that if a vehicle is traveling over 55 miles an hour, which our TMA trucks are mostly outfitted for roads that are over 45 miles an hour, so those are the examples that we're using. But if this was a stationary work zone, we recommend that Andrew stands in front of that shadow vehicle. That's where the Humphreys and Sullivan study says that he's still going to be safe with different impacting vehicle weights. Just remember, the heavier the truck, the roll ahead distance you're going to have, potentially the safer that worker is in your work zone. So I'm standing here with Royal Summer intern Andrew, who is acting as our worker in the work zone. So I'm just going to interview him real quick. Andrew, how did you feel when that 10,000-pound TMA truck was hit by that semi-truck? We saw him pretty close to you up there.
Yeah, I was wondering if it was going to stop in time. So yeah, I don't really have any protection out here other than this yellow vest and this hard hat, so I'm really counting on the TMA truck.
So you heard it from Andrew. He's safe. He can talk to us, which is good. We're going to talk to ATSA's chief instructor, Juan Morales, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about roll ahead distance as well.
Hi Juan, thanks for being on TMA Trucks A to Z. So we want to ask you a couple more questions about roll ahead distance. So first question, when should you use a shadow vehicle?
Well, according to the Manual Uniform Traffic Control Devices, a shadow vehicle is a vehicle that protects the workspace. So it should be used pretty much any time that you're either closing a lane or working in moving operation.
Okay, does it matter miles per hour, 45 miles an hour and over or under?
Not in accordance with the MUTCD. Several states, and Virginia comes to mind, require TMAs if the speed is more than 45 miles an hour, but it is not in the MUTCD. So they're basically used at the discretion of the contractor or the designer.
Okay, awesome. Juan, in your words, what is roll ahead distance?
The roll ahead distance is the distance that a TMA would get pushed or roll forward when impacted by a vehicle. Basically an area in front of the TMA that needs to be left empty to allow for that to happen.
Awesome. And why is it so important for contractors or TMA truck drivers to know about that?
Obviously, you don't want the workers working within the roll ahead distance because if a crash does occur, the TMA would get pushed into the workers and potentially hurt them. So that base has to be left empty.
Great. Now, I know in your TMA truck ATSA training, you talk about the exact distances based on the weight of the truck that you should have it set back in your work zone, which we went over in the video. But what is the best way for a crew on the highway to actually remember what the roll ahead distance numbers are?
Well, the roll ahead distance varies by TMA and many other factors like speed, the mass of the impacting vehicle, and the speed of that impact. What we teach in our courses is that we should allow at least 50 to 75 feet in a stationary operation, and it could be even more in a moving operation. So to answer your question, typically the best way to know that in the field is by looking at the skip lines. The skip lines typically follow a 10-30 pattern, meaning that each line is 10 feet long and the gap between the lines is 30 feet. So from one line to the next is going to be 40 feet. Again, that's typical. So we teach that in a stationary operation, you should see at least 2 skip lines in front of you. And in a moving operation, it should be at least 3.
That is really, really interesting. I did not know that. How dangerous are the highways these days?
The highways are always dangerous. We have moving vehicles, of course. But nowadays, with the people texting and using their mobile devices, I would say it's one of the most dangerous times to be a highway worker.
I agree. Well, thanks, Juan. Thanks for being on the show, and we look forward to chatting with you hopefully in the future.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
We learned a lot today about RAD, roll ahead distance. It's not something you really think about when you're going out to buy a TMA truck, but it's probably one of the most important things in terms of training a TMA truck driver, in training your organization, your workers. How far do you stand in front of that shadow vehicle? And really, how much should that truck weigh when you're out in a work zone? And what type of work zone? Because that worker in the work zone is counting on the TMA truck to do its job. We want to make sure that it's parked back safe enough enough for that worker to live in case of a big impact happens, but it's also capturing everyone who is texting while they're driving, potentially drinking while they're driving, and unfortunately falling asleep at the wheel. They're going to veer into that work zone, and that attenuator truck is going to absorb that crash. So if you liked our episode, I would love a like or a comment. Connect with me on LinkedIn or call us if you have any more questions. Thanks, Juan, for coming on the show today, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks, everyone.